The first 24 hours, I just remember at first having the most excruciating breast pain. That was the first thing that happened, and I was like, this is really weird. It basically was like all of the symptoms as if I was coming on a period, but maybe times it by like 20.
It's so easy to gaslight yourself. If
Definitely.
you have a period where you're not absolutely awful on the floor,
Yeah.
you see that as like, oh God, like I've made a whole thing of this and asked for surgery and pushed this and demanded that, and
Yeah.
oh, have I like done the wrong thing? You haven't.
This is a huge problem, not just for me, for many, many women. I just thought, I don't know how to move forward. Knew there was something wrong, knew there was a need to go back to my GP. And we had this conversation, and I just said to him, listen, I think it's endo. And he said to me, I think you're right. He said, I think you're right. And he said, it's a really tough road. They were like, the risks that you have of ectopic pregnancy because of the state of your tubes is so high, you would need to be very, very, very careful. And the moment which you see any type of symptom of ectopic pregnancy, you need to go straight to the hospital if you wish to conceive naturally. I love being outdoors. I love being on the water, on the land, walking, paddling, whatever. And it just felt like life was being stripped away from me.
Yeah. It takes 10 months to make a phone call.
Yeah, that's the state in which the demand and everything is just, particularly in the area I live in, just compounding against each other.
Oh my God, what is wrong with this country?
I know.
Abbie, welcome to the Girl Chat. Lovely to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. And first of all, can I just say, I love this space that you're creating. It's so important to have these kinds of spaces that feel really authentic and really representative across the community. So genuinely just super stoked that that I'm here today with you.
Oh, thank you. We talked a little bit before we kind of started chatting about how you weren't sure about whether you're going to put yourself out there or not. So I'm equally really grateful that you were brave and you sent that email to us with your story and just said, yeah, you know what, I'm just going to put myself out there and see what happens. So I'm really grateful to have you here.
Yeah, great.
I know a little bit of your background. So I know that you spent 10 years on the contraceptive pill.
Yep.
I'd love to know, did life look, and I use quotation marks, normal for you? Or what was life like when you were on that contraceptive pill? Because kind of we'll then get into the real depth of your story once you came off that.
For sure. I mean, it definitely looked somewhat normal. I first got my period probably when I was in year maybe 8, 9 at school, and it was definitely really, really painful. And at the time, I'd had a conversation with my mum. She'd been super great in preparing me for things like that, and I'd felt this crazy amount of pain, but just thought, well, this is it. This is how it works. So there was instances where I would take time off of school. There was instances where I would struggle to do basic things like sort of climb up the stairs to go to bed, things like that. And that probably should have been a first early warning sign when I was starting to take some time off of school. But I genuinely just thought, I'm just unlucky. Like, I've just got it bad. So that just kind of happened throughout my teenagehood. And then when I got to an age where I started to sort of get into relationships and things like that, and also I was having more of this pain, I went to my GP at the time, and they sort of said, oh, let's try going on the pill. And life got so much easier when I was on the pill. Like, it just masked everything. I felt pretty normal. And I just carried on my merry way, basically, for about 10 years until that moment when I sort of thought, maybe I could do with a break. Yeah. Maybe I should just try not going on this. Yeah. And in making that kind of quite innocent decision, it all kind of started to just go catastrophically wrong within 24 hours.
It was like opening Pandora's box, wasn't it?
100%, like 10 years plus worth of just whatever was brewing aside, just like came out.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What kind of pill were you on? Was it combined? Was it progesterone?
Yeah, it was the combined pill.
Okay.
So, yeah, it did like a really good job of masking things, and it was all very controlled. And I was sort of newly married and just sort of thought, let's come off the pill, let's see what happens. Let's maybe I was quite keen on maybe seeing, I'd read a bit about natural cycles, so I thought, let's try and like let my body come to a bit more of like a natural cycle, a natural rhythm. I didn't love the thought of taking the pill every single day and things like that. So it was kind of with that in mind that I thought, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And boy, did it happen.
Oh my God. I mean, walk me through this initial 24 hours, because I don't think I've heard a story of like things happening so quickly. It was like everything went at like double speed for you the minute literally that you stopped doing the pill.
Definitely. And also, full disclosure, if I don't take the pill within 24 hours the same sort of thing would happen. So even now,
Oh
my
my
body is so
God.
reliant on it. So the first 24 hours, I just remember at first having the most excruciating breast pain. That was the first thing that happened. And I was like, this is really weird. It basically was like all of the symptoms as if I was coming on a period, but maybe times it by like 20.
And what do you mean by breast? Like tenderness or like actual like stabbing pain or?
Like a mixture, but
Wow.
primarily just super tender. And then just it like, yeah, did not want to put any form of like bra or crop top or anything on. Any kind of movement was horrendous. And, you know, I had extreme bloating. I just had sort of cramping abdominal type pain, which was just off the scale. I just remember feeling like I've never been in this much pain in my life. I don't know what's happening. This is frightening. And yeah, it was really confusing. It was a really confusing time. For the first few weeks, it was, you know, I just went around in these cycles of sort of different symptoms. The breast pain kind of went away. Then I started to get leg pain. Then I started to get hip pain. And it was almost like, you know, experiencing quite a few of those symptoms.
Yeah.
And eventually that then came to a bit of a constant where I learned what my specific, you know, symptoms were. But in between this, I'd gone to the GP and I'd said something crazy is happening. And I've had a full fit bill of health up until this moment in time. I've no idea what's going on. And I, at the time, had an incredibly supportive male GP.
I know. When I read this, it warmed my heart when I read this. Oh, I was like, thank goodness that actually we can highlight such a big positive early on in the conversation. So walk me through this conversation with your male GP.
Yes, there were two conversations. The first one I told him, and he said, listen, he said, you know, you've been on this for 10 years plus. You know, it's clearly having a big effect. But he said, I think, you know, we're going to give you some pain relief, but we just need to watch. We need to watch. We need to see what happens. So he said, you know, most people, it kind of levels out after maybe 3 months. So he said, but if you need anything in the meantime, sort of call me back. Let's not, you shouldn't be suffering, basically. So we'll give you, I know.
What an absolute gem.
I know.
Who is this guy?
I know,
I feel
right?
like I need like him on speed dial.
Yeah,
What an amazing guy. I mean, what kind of age was he?
Like, they're like probably a similar age to us, right?
Okay.
So, you know, quite a young doctor. And, you know, we had moved to that village and we'd had a recommendation of that GP from some friends.
Okay.
And he, like consistently I hear reports of just him being the same with everyone, which is just super diligent, you know, really friendly, really compassionate. You know, and I know that I'm very much in the minority when I speak of that kind of story. And, you know, yeah, I kind of understand. There's a few moments in my story where I definitely have moments of privilege. I think, you know, I recognise that that's a real privilege to have a GP who is on it.
Yeah. What about the second conversation then?
Yeah, so the second conversation, after those 3 months, it kind of evened out. So I started to have regular symptoms. And those mainly, for me, it's always been pelvic pain, leg pain, and sort of bowel type issues, whether that be bloating or things like that, diarrhea. But the main symptom for me is leg and hip pain.
And can you describe the leg and hip pain to someone that maybe doesn't know what you're talking about?
It is crazy. It is like somebody is taking a jackhammer to your hips. Ooh. It is horrendous. And the leg pain, it alternates between sharp shooting sudden pains that come out of nowhere and then just like a dull, like this level of sort of constant pain that it kind of just sits at quite a high level. So there'll sort of be a constant pain with stabbing pains as well. But it got to the point where, like, you know, being completely honest, struggling to kind of even just walk and move around. And that was when I just thought, this is nuts. And I don't think it should be like this. Kind of made me question things. And I'd read online about endometriosis on the NHS website. And I was reading through all these symptoms. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is me. This is what I've got. I know it's this. Like in my heart of hearts, I was like, I know it's this. You know, I also was experiencing painful intercourse, and that was the same on the pill as well.
Interesting.
So, yeah. So, you know, I'd always kind of noted that I was a bit more sort of sensitive on the pill. And then when I came off, it was like, this is excruciating. And the same with things like examination. So knew there was something wrong, knew there was a need to go back to my GP. And we had this conversation and I just said to him, listen, I think it's endo. And he said to me, I think you're right. He said, I think you're right. And he said, I need to be honest with you. And he said, it's a really tough road. He said, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. He was basically saying, there's hardly any research. There's no cure. He said, you're going to be very misunderstood. Like there's not a perfect solution to this right now. and we'll do what we can to help you, and I'll do everything that I can. So he was like, the plan is we will do every single test that we can possibly do on you. Like, we will test all of your organs, everything that we have within our remit as a GP, I will do, so that when we put the referral in to gynae, there's no question.
I actually just got goosebumps.
I know.
Like, genuinely, as you told me that, I've just had like goosebumps down my entire body.
Yeah.
That, I don't know, that makes me really emotional to hear that, because part of me thinks, well, God, that's heartbreaking for you, because you've just Googled something and this is like a lot of information for someone, and obviously very scary for you.
Yeah.
But also, I imagine maybe now in hindsight as well, and knowing all the horrific stories that we hear about gaslighting and things like that, especially at GP level, it's just incredible to hear. And I just hope that if other professionals, clinicians, GPs, doctors listen to this, and hear what kind of man he is and what kind of person he is and what kind of clinician he is, that could inspire the next generation, because he is exactly what you want from a clinician.
100%. And I felt like it was a partnership. I felt like it was like, okay, we've got a plan, we're doing it together. I feel safe and secure in that. And there are points later on where you see all of that kind of crumbles away, because I had this fantastic experience. But yeah, the next few months, I did a lot of tests. There were a lot of samples involved. One of my favourite moments, by the way, I don't know if you've ever had this at GP, where they ask you to bring a sample. You bring it to reception. The reception said to me, did we ask for this? And I was like, has there been a moment where somebody's come to the GP with a sample that hasn't been asked for? Like, there must have been. If they're saying that, there must. Anyway, that's an aside.
They probably do get some weird and wacky things that people just kind of like pop it on the desk, and they're like, there you go.
Bit of Tupperware. Got you sorted. That'll be it. So we did all of these tests, and everything came back normal. Surprise, surprise. But he was sort of saying that's probably what's going to happen, not expecting to see anything from this. Even sort of looking at hormonal levels, those were coming back fairly normal as well. So, we put in the referral to gynae, and that was kind of the end of that story in a lot of ways, because it just stopped. Like, the contact stopped. Obviously now I was in the care of the hospital, and we just all know the waiting lists and the massive problem that's in front of us. So yeah, it felt like, we were on a bit of momentum, we were on a roll, and then suddenly I was in this point of view where I was just waiting.
Wow.
And what do? Life is still carrying on. So during that time, what was happening is that things were getting worse, my symptoms were getting worse. So we'd started off on some cocodamol.
Okay.
So he said, I'm going to recommend some cocodamol for you. That wasn't really hitting the spot, wasn't working.
Wow,
So
okay.
the next stage was like, let's try you on just codeine.
Okay.
So obviously now I'm becoming aware, as you take these, you have different side effects. If you take something like codeine or plus, for some people, myself included, that means you instantly can't work.
Yeah.
Because, your concentration.
It floors you, doesn't it? It makes you feel like an absolute zombie.
Yeah, 100%. And then now you're taking pills to counteract those pills, to like protect your tummy, to, in terms of like bowel type symptoms. So there was other pills counteracting that. So the codeine, started on that, and that then stopped working. It just felt like the pain level was getting higher and higher, and there's nothing I could do to stop it. And at the time I worked in central London, so if a flare-up happened, Midlands based, so if I got in trouble at work, what does that look like? It became a really difficult situation to manage, even with a workplace and employer who's like super supportive, and I had good support work, and I had reasonable adjustments made, but even then you can't always predict when these things are going to happen.
No, and that's the whole point of the disease in lots of ways, is that it's pain in the ass, because you're like, oh, I've got absolutely not Scooby whether you're going to behave today or whether you're going to kick off.
That's it.
It's like a toddler.
Completely. And like when I first came off of the pill, it did follow quite a cycle where I probably could predict a little bit of when things were going to go bad. And that's part of the reason why I was so convinced I knew it was endo, was because every time which I ovulated, from ovulation till the end of my period, it was going to be hell. And I could feel myself ovulating, which sounds really weird, but I had really clear ovulation pains. I'd never had that.
I got
throughout
that.
my life. It's so bizarre.
Yeah, I had that, like, it was a few years ago. Things have changed a bit for me. But yeah, I could literally feel it happen.
Yeah.
And it was it's not pleasant. It wasn't like, I can feel this is going to happen, amazing, like, joy of life, like natural, like, woo, I can feel it. That's amazing. It was like, I can feel it. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, I'm on the floor.
That's it.
Someone help me.
100%. And so I kind of had a little bit of foresight, but not very much. So yeah, the codeine stopped working, and then I moved on to diadrocodone, which is like, codeine plus. It's like codeine on steroids sort of thing.
Yeah.
Not literally steroids, but that sort of way. So, that diadrocodone, I remember one time I took it and I was taking the train home to get home from work, and I remember looking down at my hands, and all around, like, my fingers, all my skin had like wrinkled up, and it looked like my hands were like somebody else's hands, and it would do things like make your heart race. There's all kinds of side effects. You get the classic dry throat. However much you drink, it doesn't do anything. Like, it was just so interruptive. I felt really spaced out, and I didn't always feel safe. It would have to be a real choice to take something to ease that pain if I was out and about, particularly on my own. If I was doing that, I need to make sure there's somebody like ready for me on the platform on the other side, usually my husband, ready to kind of get me into the car, help me out, bring along some supplies, bring along some drinks, my TENS machine, whatever else have you. So it became a point where it was quite unlivable day to day. And I didn't want to take down my hours at work. I love working. I was really it was just very disruptive in life. I would probably talk about it a bit later on, but I'm a paddle sport instructor, so I instruct canoe, kayak and paddleboard on a voluntary basis. And I was having to spend less time out on the water and with my friends, and like, it was just literally impacting every single area of life at this stage. So
the ripple effects are just massive, aren't they? Like, it's not, that's what I think people that don't have any maybe contact with people with endometriosis or lived experience or have come across this world, because obviously when you're in this world, it's all we talk about, but when you're not in that world at all, you kind of come to it, and I don't think you can fully appreciate that you can't contain endometriosis. Like, you can't contain it to one part of the body because it grows everywhere. You also can't contain it in someone's life, because I don't think there's a single part of my life, or from the stories that I've heard, where I'd be like, oh yeah, that's closed off, that's boxed off, like, that's safe, that's not going to be changed or interrupted or amended in some way.
No, completely. And we were talking before we came on air about, like, how you almost have to become that expert. And that's such a wild and crazy thing when you think about it. Like, if you had most other illnesses, you would not have to know the level of knowledge that people with these sort of like illnesses have to have that knowledge of in order to advocate.
You can never like sit back on your laurels. Like, we were talking about this. You can never just go into appointments being like, oh, like, whew, I'm here, sat down, experts over there, amazing. Like, I can just sit back and take a breath. They're just going to like handle this and lead it. Like, it never happens. You're just constantly on edge, constantly having to prepare and over prepare, and everything's on like alert, and nothing. It's the opposite of relax, isn't it?
Definitely. So like, we got to this stage where the diadrocodone, it was still not quite right, and it was becoming, like I say, a bit of an unlivable situation. And I had been back to my GP a couple of times, and they'd said to me at this stage, if you have any more flare-ups where it's this bad and the diadrocodone isn't working, it's not the best solution, but you should go to A&E. That was their advice.
Wow.
Because they were like, you're beyond, we probably can't give you anything else, and you need to be seen at the hospital. So lo and behold, there were a couple of occasions where I was advised to go to A&E, and I never went sort of on my own back. I always went from recommendation. And the first time which I went, I thought, right, okay, we'll go to A&E, and then it'll get me on this road. Hopefully I'll be in the hospital's care. Wonderful. Let's like get this done.
And to really hammer down the point, because you mentioned this before we spoke, you were, apart from these symptoms, an incredibly fit, healthy person that had not used the emergency services, and was not someone that was turning up at A&E every other week, or felt like they could just easily hop down there because it was a quick fix.
100%.
You're the opposite of that kind of person.
Yeah, I'd never had any need to call the police, the fire service, an ambulance. I've been into urgent care once as a teenager because I sprained my ankle on a bouncy castle. Like, that was the extent of my time inside of a hospital. So it got to the stage where I had one day where I had extreme bloating, I was bleeding a lot, and my legs were in agony, and I didn't feel like I could move well, and it was just, the diadrocodone wasn't doing anything. And I kind of made the decision and, called the GP and spoke to my doctor, and he said, go to A&E. It's probably the best place for you. So we drove to A&E, and as soon as we got there, just the whole atmosphere sort of shifted. I think when they sort of said, okay, well, it's not an emergency. So we're just going to check your vitals, first of all.
Right.
So, I had the usual sort of ECG, blood pressure, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of explained, what was happening.
Yeah.
I said, we're going to send you to Miami, which sounds lovely. Miami is an acronym, which I should have looked up before I came here, but it's basically the hospital's version of the GP. So it's like minor incidents, accidents. It stands for something. But they were like, go to Miami. I was like, this sounds fantastic. But it wasn't. Little did I know, Miami in Leicester General is a lot different from Miami, USA.
Yeah, politely.
Yeah, we got, it was down sort of in the sort of under floor, in the sort of ground level of the hospital, and it was a waiting room, and there were lots of different booths with curtains in between where there was the equivalent of general practitioners advising and things.
Okay.
So I wasn't feeling overly hopeful, and it was about 9 o'clock at night this time as well, so it'd been a fair bit of waiting. So I'd gone in to speak to this general practitioner, and first of all, just the whole interaction, I almost can't believe it happened.
Okay.
Just his manner and the way which that's when sort of the curtain fell down, the glass was cracked, like everything that had gone up to this point where I thought, this is going to be okay. I'm going to go and get help. This will be fantastic. They're going to help me. Just that was the moment when I realised, it's like that twisted moment in like a horror movie where you realise, oh no, I'm in trouble here. What the heck have I gotten myself into?
Okay.
So we had this conversation, and first of all, I'd come from urgent care. They'd actually kind of said I'd had a visit to urgent care before I went to A&E. So when I spoke to him, the first thing which he said was, who did you speak to at urgent care? Because I know them there. And it was like he was looking for me to name someone.
Yeah, he wanted to do like the blame game.
Yeah, it was really bizarre. And obviously I didn't remember the name because, I was in a fair bit of pain. It's like understatement of the year. And I probably didn't listen when they said, hello, I'm Dr. whoever they were, rightly or wrongly. But that's just, I was just coping at the time. And then he basically said, well, he said, I can admit you to gynae, but they probably won't take you. And then he said, who did you speak to at your GP? And I went to go and answer him, and then he said, I bet you only spoke to the receptionist. And I lost it. And I'm like a very calm person.
Yeah.
I don't like confrontation, but I was in this crazy amount of pain. I've been pushed to my edge. I've been waiting for it in excess of like 3-4 hours. And he just said, I bet you only spoke to the receptionist.
Oh my God.
And I just said, like, how dare you? I was
Yeah.
like, I've come here. I'm in debilitating pain. I'm not working. Like, do you think I've come here by choice?
Yeah, like for a fun day out.
Yeah, I was like, how dare you do? Like, I literally just lost it, and I don't think he was expecting me to lose it. I wasn't expecting myself to lose it, but I feel like it had just touched a nerve when I thought, no, I've done everything right.
Yeah.
I've come here for help.
Yeah.
And you're accusing me essentially of lying.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm not lying. I've never come. I don't come to like this is not. I don't do things like this. This is something that's happening to me.
Yeah.
And then he said, oh well, I guess I could admit you to gynae. He said, but they probably won't take you. And I looked him dead in the eye and I said, well, if you can at least try, that would be fantastic. And he said, right, I'll give you some pain relief. And and then he sent me to wait in the waiting room, in which I just exploded. My husband went, you would never guess what just happened. It's like, whoa, what's going on? About 10 minutes later, a porter came to take me up to gynae, and I am not a I'd like to think myself not a petty person, but when this practitioner had to come back and tell me this, I was like, sorry, can you just one more time? Oh, okay, they did take me then. Did they? Fantastic. Thought they might.
I mean, who could resist after his attitude,
I know.
the way he spoke to you,
Yeah.
the fact that he had the audacity to accuse you of lying, and to basically just everything about that interaction. I mean, who wouldn't want a little kind of satisfying moment of like, yeah, sorry, what?
Yeah.
What was that? Can't quite hear you.
So I was feeling, a little bit smug and a little bit like, yes, we're back on track for my plan. And, went up to gynae. It was about sort of 10, half 10 at night by this stage. So it was all pretty dead, pretty quiet. And, went into another waiting room. And I was like, great, this is going to be fantastic. And then I saw the gynecologist and he said, what I think we've got here is, he said, I think you've got a UTI. And I was like, I do not have a UTI.
What?
And yeah, I know. And then, but he was like, but everything you're saying to me makes me believe that you've got a UTI. He said, so what we're going to do, he said, we've got a plan.
Sorry, hold on. Just pause for a second.
Yeah.
We've got chronic debilitating pelvic pain that has not been eased or satisfied with incredibly strong painkillers.
Yeah.
We've got chronic hip pain.
Yeah.
Chronic leg pain to the point where you can't walk or really move around a great deal.
Yeah.
Heavy bleeding to the point where you're feeling probably lightheaded and all those kinds
100%.
of things. You're barely at a point where you can function.
Yeah.
And the man turns around and goes, I think you've got a UTI.
Yes. Yes.
Like, come on.
I know.
Like, I'm not a doctor. I'm not medically trained, but I'm sorry. There are definitely symptoms that you were showing that are absolutely fuck all to do with the UTI. Like, 100%. Not in the same ballpark.
No. And I think, it was very late at night and, it was sort of graveyard type situation.
Yeah.
So, they said what the plan is they said, we're going to give you antibiotics for your UTI and we're going to discharge you. And I said to him, I know you're the doctor. I said, but I'm telling you, I do not have a UTI. I said, well, we believe that you do. So we are going to discharge you. And that was kind of the end of the conversation.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
We're not in your body. We can't feel anything that you're feeling right now.
Yeah.
I mean, did he ask you any of the symptoms that, like, would also indicate a UTI? Like,
no.
Pain, like painful burning peeing or like constant urgency to the point where you feel like you're not...
There was nothing like that going on.
What?
I know.
Oh, my God.
So... after that experience of, and by the time we got home, it was sort of gone midnight.
Yeah.
So that was sort of most of that afternoon and night. And, I just came home and I just felt like so dejected. Like, what has happened here? I couldn't understand it. This is the first time that I'd needed to have any kind of intervention beyond my GP. And that was the moment where the trust really, unfortunately, kind of broke down. And I realised I'm going to have to fight for myself here, because I'm not going to get another GP like my lovely GP in the village who's as diligent. This is a much different game, and that's what led me then to reading more stories online and starting to hear about others. And when I started to hear these different accounts, particularly of the kind of gaslighting or of being accused of lying and things like that, I thought, oh my goodness, this is a can of worms. Like, this is a huge problem, not just for me, for many, many women. I just thought, I don't know how to move forward. I don't know how to move forwards, basically.
Yeah. We know that you've had a diagnostic laparoscopy. So how did you get to that? How did you go from that first kind of eye-opening, rose-tinted glasses have come off A&E situation to being able to get a diagnostic laparoscopy?
I guess life carried on in a way, and I just sort of cobbled together what I could and just sort of coped for a number of months, and it just became all a bit too much. It became overwhelming. I didn't feel like I was doing my best at work. I didn't feel like I could do very much at home. My husband Lewis, who's like incredibly supportive, amazing person, he really stepped up and stepped in when it came to just the basics, like, just making sure meals were there, making sure the house was looking all right, making sure I was okay, checking in, bringing in reinforcements. Like, he just had to really step it up. And though I'm really grateful to him for that, there was also a point where I'm like, this is a partnership and I want it to be a partnership, and you feel that guilt. And and mentally it just like, I think there was a podcast episode which I listened to, and a lot of times we touched on things like self-esteem, and it did feel like the self-esteem is getting less and less, my confidence is getting less. I love being outdoors, I love being on the water, on the land, walking, paddling, whatever, and it just felt like life was being stripped away from me. And I just thought, I can't carry on like this. There was no, I've been sent this referral from the GP to gynae, but that had not come through at all. This has been sort of 10 plus months. It was just getting to a stage where I thought, I've got to do something. What's in my power to do? And I was definitely in the privileged position to start to explore what private could look like for me.
Okay.
I didn't have insurance. It would be self-paying.
Right.
And that in itself was like a massive risk, because I know I was in a privileged position to be able to do so, but that didn't mean that it didn't drain everything that I kind of worked for up until that point. It was huge.
It shouldn't diminish the fact that you have earned that money, deserved that money.
Yeah.
You know, it's good to acknowledge the privilege in different situations, but there shouldn't be any guilt attached to that, because
100%.
you got yourself to that position through all your hard work and everything that you've done.
Definitely.
And it's also devastating having to drain your savings, right? Because you pay your taxes. There is a healthcare system there that should look after you and should be doing this as someone that lives in this country and pays their taxes and all the rest of it. And yet we're having to look at all the money that you had earned yourself to pay for this.
Definitely. And I think this will hopefully be useful to those who are debating whether to go down this route, because there are definitely good news stories, and I would say mine's quite a mixed bag story, and not necessarily a good news story. And I think it's good to see both sides of that. You know, I think in terms of the NHS and things like that, there are some wonderful, well-informed clinicians. It's the system and the processes that are entirely broken. And, you know, it was on this occasion that I thought I need to get some sort of action. So, you know, I booked in with a consultant, did my research. And the first thing that happened was they said, no, dihydrocodine's awful. They were like, it's horrendous. It's, you know, it's really heavy duty. They said, we can definitely put you on something non-opiate that will be the same level of pain relief. So let's start by like changing up your pain relief and hopefully alleviating all of the sort of side effects. So yeah, that was sort of the first step was, okay, we know we need to investigate further, but first things first, like, let's get you off of those, because that's going to wreck your stomach lining and it's going to wreck all those things.
I mean, opioids are, there's a lot of bad press about opioids.
I know.
There, so
yeah.
Understandably, you could understand first and foremost their immediate reaction of like, oh, this is risky and a bit dangerous. Let's kind of deal with this element of it.
Yeah, because it'd been for quite a while, and I didn't take them all the time because I was quite aware of, you know, I knew there was risks there. So it was that whole thing during that period of having to weigh up that risk within yourself, and then do I then stay in pain? You know, and yes, that was quite a tough one. But I went on to Nethapan. So I was advised to take Nethapan, and that definitely has that is something that does combat the pain sufficiently. So that was something. It's quite strong.
Yes.
It makes your heart beat lots. It makes you feel completely trippy. But I can say, finally, the pain in my legs had gone. I mean, a lot of it was numbness.
Yes,
but,
and I can only imagine.
But I can say that there wasn't any pain.
Okay.
So that was a step forwards. And then in the meantime, it was like, right, they'd had enough information. There'd been scans that had been done previously. All of this had shown that, you know, that there was nothing, that it was all clear. But everything I was saying anecdotally led them to say, I don't think they felt their need to scan me again.
Okay, good. Save time.
Yeah, from all the information, they were like, yeah, I think we just need to book you in for your laparoscopy, basically.
Okay.
So that was the next step, and that all happened very quickly. You know, I saw the consultant in November and was having the surgery in January by choice. They could have done it in December.
Yeah, I mean, I was in a similar position. I was lucky that my parents were able to take my gynae referral private because we had the option. We looked at the waiting list and the state that I was in.
Yeah.
I was literally like that close from dropping out of uni completely. So my parents were like, no, we're just gonna do this.
Yeah.
And we didn't know what a diagnostic laparoscopy was or anything, but they sent me, and it is astonishing, the turnaround time and the access. I mean, you have to get someone to obviously convince and approve the surgery, and that can be a whole battle.
Yes.
But once they are on board about doing surgery, it is lightning quick.
Yeah, definitely.
What they can do.
I talked obviously about one of my experiences at A&E. I did have another one after that in which they saw me and then basically said, we're going to send you the next day to basically have some more tests done. So they said, we're going to send you home now, and next day you'll come in. Okay. And that was an interesting story in itself, because at one stage I was seeing the doctor there was so kind, and he basically said, I've got 2 students. Do you mind if I said, bring them in? Yeah. They said, what's going to happen is they're actually going to interview you like on your own if you're comfortable with that.
Wow.
Take some notes. And then he said, if it's okay, I'm going to come back in and they're going to have an open conversation where we'll discuss what you've said and what their suspicions are, and then we'll go forward and we'll go through recommendations. And that was fascinating because there were two young boys. I say young boys, they were probably young men. They wouldn't have been boys, but the doctor left the room. I was like, right, lads, listen up, because I've got a story to tell you. And basically just got on my soapbox and told them about my journey and things like that. And fantastically, when the doctor came back in, they were like, well, it's definitely something gynecological and da-da-da. And one of them cited PCOS and things to say, definitely took on board.
Brilliant.
But it was just quite a funny moment because I was like, yes, bring them in.
Yeah.
Let me tell them what they're about to enter into.
But they need that exposure. They need to be in front of patients during those very formative training years.
Yes.
To see stories exactly like yours. Like, I'm so glad that you felt able to say, you know, absolutely, I want them to see this and observe this.
Definitely. And I feel like once I'd realised what was going on, once that glass had kind of cracked, I began to build that confidence and resilience. I began to read information. I began to become a bit stronger in myself. Like I said, I'm a bit of a people pleaser, and I'm not confrontational. And this has taught me that actually there are times where you need to fight for yourself.
Absolutely.
And like, I'm, in my 30s, so I'm very much like, okay, look, I need to put on my big girl pants and just like go and kick butt, because nobody else is going to do it for you. Sometimes you have to learn that the harsh end, but I felt like I was in the position where I had the strength to do so. So during that process, I had another few scans and lots of tests. They'd looked at pretty much the entire set of organs within my abdomen. So they'd looked at my appendix, they'd looked at my spleen. So by this stage, pretty much every organ had been tested. So there was no room for any doubt. Hence why when I went to the consultant privately, they said, well, everything's been done. Like, we just need to open you up and take a look.
Yeah.
And that's what happened.
We're taking a quick break to say thank you to today's sponsor, BU Period. When it comes to women's health, I'm obsessed with all things holistic and natural. My go-to product is BU's pain relief patches. The combination of menthol and eucalyptus is pure bliss when an endo flare hits. Whether it's pelvic pain, back pain, leg pain, or anything else, they give me the instant and long-lasting relief I need. And you can even set up your own subscription so that you never run out of natural pain relief. If you want to get your hands on BU's patches, you can find the link in the show notes. And make sure you use the code INJAP10 to get your exclusive listener discount. Now let's get back to the girl chat. So tell me what they found.
How crazy is it when you go for a diagnostic and you go in and I was having a really great day. So it's like, I feel fine. It feels really alien to be thinking about going for an operation when like, oh, I feel fine. And just as an aside, I think sometimes that's something that I definitely do. I'm sure others do it, where you think, maybe this is all okay and it's like gone away, or maybe it's actually not as bad as it seems, and you almost gaslight yourself. And then there'll be a day where you wake up where you go, no, this is still here. This is terrible. This is a really big problem.
Yeah, I've been speaking to women recently, actually, one in particular who was having her diagnostic laparoscopy, and that was a massive part of the conversation that we kept having. And she was like, I keep having good days. Like, I can't, I'm getting to the point where I'm not sure exactly where my last flare up was, and I'm having a really good time. And then inevitably, the stress and the worry and the anxiety of the surgery coming up then caused one of the biggest ever flares.
Wow.
So it's so easy to gaslight yourself. If you have a period where you're not absolutely awful on the floor, you see that as like, oh God, like I've made a whole thing of this and asked for surgery and pushed this and demanded that, and have I like done the wrong thing? You haven't. 100%. You absolutely have not. It could only take one bad flare in an entire year, and you have the right to get that investigated.
Definitely. 100% agree. And, I went down for that operation, and my biggest fear, like many others, was like every other test, they're not going to find anything. It's going to come back normal, and I'm going to be left with this feeling of where do I go with this and what happens? Anyway, had the procedure, and when I woke up, the inevitable words were said, which was, we have found endometriosis. And I thought that was going to be the end of the conversation, but then an intake of breath, and then the conversation carried on, and a load of stuff was said. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that as well. So they had found very light endometriosis, so like stage 1. And also, I think there's not enough chat, or there probably is, but maybe I feel like there's a bit of a stigma with those with lower stages and higher amount of pain. And I don't, as somebody who's a stage 1, that if I came off of the pill tomorrow, I could not work full time. I think we have to recognise that it doesn't, that like it's yours and it's your journey. And if you feel that pain and feel that, that's just as valid. It doesn't matter about that stage. You know, it's about yourself. And I think we compare ourselves a lot, right? So I think that's very easy to do so. So they said, you know, stage 1 endo, we've found on your left ovary, we've found a cyst there, we've found some endo there. They said it was so small that we didn't want to risk excising it. We didn't want to risk because of the risk to damaging your ovaries.
Wow. Okay.
How attached it was.
Okay.
So that was the first thing, is you have endo, we haven't removed it.
Okay.
Because of the risk of damaging your ovaries. I was like, okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
Said also, they said your fallopian tubes, both of them, are entirely blocked. They are really inflamed. They are twisted. They are huge. And we put 7 syringe worth of dye, because they just ran a regular dye test. They said we did 7 syringes in your left tube. Absolutely nothing. We did 7. These are like 7 full syringes.
Oh my God.
In your right, and a few drops came out. They basically then said, we suspect adenomyosis based on that finding.
Okay.
And also on the way in which like your uterus is presenting,
Yes.
which I know for adenomyosis is quite often described as bulky.
Yes.
And which it was in my case as well.
Yeah.
And then it was sort of said, you know, if you're planning on having a family, the only way which you could do that is through IVF. They were like, the risk that you have of ectopic pregnancy because of the state of your tubes is so high, you would need to be very, very, very careful. And the moment which you see any type of symptom of ectopic pregnancy, you need to go straight to the hospital if you wish to conceive naturally.
Oh my God.
I know. And I had not really pushed the narrative of wanting to start a family.
Yeah.
And this is something that I do have a bit of a gripe with, is that a lot of the conversations seem to be driven towards family planning, things like that. And,
Yes.
you know, that frustrates me because I often feel like that's prioritised over and above the quality of life and the care of the patient that's in front of you.
Yeah. And what I do know about that, which I went to a conference, it's really fascinating, so I wasn't really aware of it beforehand, is that the 2 reasons, or the 2 kind of factors that they will only take into account when it comes to surgery, whether it's diagnostic, removal, ablation, excision, whatever, is fertility, preserving fertility. And then secondary to that is quality of life.
Yeah.
And that's what is such a massive problem, because all the guidelines and all the research, everything that these clinicians use, whether it's the NICE guidelines or the ESHRE guidelines, it all comes from the absolute motivation and backbone of doing any kind of intervention surgically is to preserve fertility. So in lots of ways, they're just following the guidance that they've been given.
100%.
But that's problematic because the guidance is prioritising that is very, very important. But I think dependent on the woman, I think some would choose fertility, some would choose quality of life. Like for myself, the whole time, the whole journey, the whole past decade, continuing now, I would always choose quality of life at this point in time.
100%.
It might change, you know?
Yeah, that's it. So no, that was what was sort of said to me after the surgery, and I was expecting endometriosis, but I was, you know, what I was hoping for. I wasn't expecting, I was hoping, because, you know, you hope that something comes back that doesn't say normal when you're feeling like that. But yeah, the cold hard truth was savings are drained. They hadn't been able to remove any of it. Really nothing could happen in that procedure other than running tests, taking images and reporting. And that's sometimes just the truth of it. I came away with a lot more than I went in with, because I came away with answers, explanations, with data, with images. That's something. But I can't lie, you know, that's the risk that you take. Particularly when you are not taking a pump, but when you're self-paying and when you're debating that option, you just have to imagine that it's not always a case of I will either get diagnosed or not diagnosed, or I will get it excised or not excised. Like, there's a lot of grey area, and I think I kind of fell into that grey area.
Yeah.
Do you know what the irony was that I came out of that procedure, it was a private procedure, was at home recovering. This was sort of over a year after that referral was submitted.
No.
Yeah, a letter came through the post saying, you have an initial appointment.
Oh my God.
I know. And then when they saw me for that initial NHS appointment, it was kind of good because I kept the appointment, because, you know, I also believed, you know, I thought, well, I can't be, you almost have this thing where you're like, I can't be in this much pain, but there's so little endo. Like maybe, you know, it's just a diagnostic in certain areas. I do feel like there's more. I do feel like things were getting worse. So I requested all the notes and images that were taken during the procedure, which was all received, all well and good. And I brought them on my little iPad to my initial appointment and said, this is what's happened, and regaled the whole story. And they basically said, you know, what do you want to happen? Like, I was like, well, I don't really know what can happen. So yeah, it's I mean, the kind of the statistic for me is that, you know, since 2023, I have seen an NHS gynaecologist twice.
Since 2023? Twice?
Yeah. The waiting list is a massive issue.
Oh God, yeah.
That initial appointment, and then at that initial appointment, so that was the first time which I'd seen them.
Yeah.
So again, that was sort of about March 24.
Yeah.
So that was the first time. And then in the summer of that year, I was referred to, there's a panel that meet, which are basically the gynecologist, a psychologist, and a pain management specialist. And what they do, it's actually quite a good service. And basically, they all interview you. They all examine you or ask you questions. They come together. They talk about what they think the plan should be, and they give recommendations.
Okay, I do like the sound of that.
It is good.
I mean, a multidisciplinary team is
Pretty
something we
good.
need a lot more of for endometriosis care. So, okay,
So
good.
there was recommendations that came out of that.
Okay.
One of those being you need to get linked up with the endometriosis specialist at the hospital. Fantastic. Yes,
amazing news.
Great.
Yeah.
That was not done via a referral, though. I believe that was done by that clinician having a conversation.
Okay.
And not through the traditional route.
Right. Okay.
There was pain management recommendations.
Yeah.
One of which was we should try you for an infusion, which was a lidocaine infusion.
Okay.
And they said, if that doesn't work, we can maybe look at chemical menopause if that's what you wish.
Fine.
Yeah, I was not a big fan personally and wanted to avoid any kind of chemical menopause.
Understandably, because of age and everything they told you about in the diagnostic laparoscopy as well.
Yeah, that's it.
What is infusion for people that have no idea what that means?
So an infusion is basically where you go to the hospital, you will either lie down or be sat in a chair. You'll have a cannula put into you, and then you have medicine then sort of injected in.
Yes.
So medicine will then do whatever the type of infusion it is. In this case, they were suggesting lidocaine, which is actually a type of anaesthetic, very light anaesthetic.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's used for quite a lot of different illnesses. It's only very recently been recommended to those who have endometriosis, and primarily those who have leg pain and hip pain, but primarily leg pain.
Interesting.
Yeah, because it treats other both illnesses and I believe sports injuries as well. That might need to be fact checked.
Okay.
But basically that result in leg pain.
Wow.
So they said, because your main symptom is leg and hip pain, we're going to give this a go.
Yes.
And I was put on waiting lists for those things. So, you know, that waiting list was over a year.
Oh my word.
So again, it's all just been very drawn out. So since being diagnosed, actually not loads has happened.
Yes. Because there's so much waiting time.
There is.
So much waiting time.
But yeah, I did have that infusion in May of 2025. And for me, it worked fantastically.
Wow.
The effects only last 6 weeks. Cry.
Oh.
But those 6 weeks, oh my goodness, it was like being a different person. It was like I could work fully. It's like I could go out multiple times a day. I could go and do the shopping. I could go out for a walk. I could go out paddle. I could do the things. It was just this taste of like normal life. And then when it started to wear off, I almost was like, had to grieve it in a way, because it was like, oh my goodness, I've had this taste of what life would be. And they had told me at the time when I was getting the infusion, you know, if this works, we'll just repeat it every 6 weeks. You'll come to the hospital, you have an infusion, you'll go home. 6 weeks later, you'll come back. So then, you know, 6 weeks were nearing. I was thinking, I haven't heard anything.
Yeah.
Started to ring this little alarm bell, and this little red flag was going off in my head. And then when I managed to call after about 6 phone numbers to get through to where I needed to get to, they had basically said, no, they should have never said that to you on the day. They said, what happens is you have to wait for a nurse to call you to say, how did it go?
Okay.
Then you'll be put back on the list to have another one. I was like, right, okay, so when can I expect the nurse to call me? And they said the waiting list is about 10 months.
For a phone call?
For the nurse to call and say, how did it go?
It takes 10 months to make a phone call.
Yeah, that's the state in which the demand and everything is just, particularly in the area I live in, just compounding against each other.
Oh my God, what is wrong with this country?
I know. So
10 months to make a phone call.
I mean, you know, it came through, I believe, in about 7 or 8. So that's something.
Oh, well then.
Exactly.
Fine.
So, and honestly, that phone call looked like, please give it to me as soon as you can. It was amazing. Da-da.
Yeah.
So and now I'm back the way which I am at the moment. So where things are left at now is that I am on the waiting list for my second infusion.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been on that now for, they were quite hopeful that it would be under a year this time, but not by very much.
Yeah. Wow. 6 weeks and under a year is 2 very different timescales, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. But I'm glad that there was something viable that gives me a bit of hope.
Yes.
Unfortunately, what doesn't give hope is kind of, you know, the weight of that.
Yes.
So that's where things are at now.
Wow.
And I'm just trying to sort of balance regular life. It's the balance between fighting and advocating and that kind of admin time and things like that, and, you know, making those appointments and doing all of that versus, you know, trying to keep up your regular life, trying to live, trying to thrive, trying to work, trying to have your social life, like, you know. And I think sometimes in the online community, which I find incredibly supportive, there can sometimes be this like, we have got to push all the time, or it might feel that way because that's the subject matter, right? But actually probably every single one of those people are balancing all the regular life stuff as well, and I don't think that's talked about enough, because the amount of pressure that we're all put under to, you know, not only conduct regular life, but to be able to manage a hidden illness, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to really balance and prioritize, yes, fighting for myself, and yes, advocating, and yes, trying to get myself the best care that I'm able to at this moment in time. But I also need to prioritize my own happiness, my own joy, and my own balance of life, you know?
Absolutely, so important. And talking about that, you have a huge passion, which you've quickly mentioned before.
Yeah.
You phrased it to me, and I love this phrase, as enabling women to do badass stuff, which I absolutely love. So you mentioned you love being on the water and you're very outdoorsy. That's a big, big passion for you, which I imagine brings joy and love and enjoyment and all those things.
Yeah.
And as part of that work, you've decided to do an incredible challenge. Well, you set yourself an incredible challenge.
Yeah.
Tell us about all of that.
Oh, it's a bit nuts. I'll get to that bit. So yeah, like I say, I'm a volunteer paddle sport instructor, which means canoe, kayak and paddleboard instructor.
Okay.
My particular passion is paddleboarding. And by the way...
Is that where you stand up?
Yes.
Okay.
But you don't have to. And it's such an adaptive sport because you can stand up, you can sit down, you can lie down. There's so many ways in which paddleboarding can be adaptive.
Okay.
Even have adaptive paddleboards for wheelchair users. There's so much out there. It's a fantastic thing, and if anybody's thinking about trying it, I would highly recommend it because it's just a really great way to get out and about. So yeah, I've been doing that for a little while at my local outdoors centre. Was never a paddler before, and then I was approached about maybe becoming an instructor, which was crazy. I had just gone there to make friends, and they just enveloped me into their community. So as part of this as part of my local outdoors centre, which is Leicester Outdoor Pursuit Centre, we have a women's only group. And a bunch of us all got together and decided to rebrand it as what we affectionately call Wild Women Outdoors Club.
Love that name.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So a bunch of us ladies go out every Tuesday and we just do cool stuff. We might go up on high ropes. We might go abseiling. We might do some archery. We might go out on the paddleboards. We might go out in canoes and kayaks. Amazing. Yeah, we just go and we learn things and we do it together.
Yeah.
And it's a fantastic community, but it's almost become like a therapy on the water.
Yeah. Okay.
Like the paddleboarding, the canoeing, the kayaking, that's all just a vehicle to be able to talk about what really matters in life.
Yeah.
And there are women from all different walks of life that come along, which is fantastic. I've had ladies who have come along who have been like, my kids have gone off to uni and I don't know who I am anymore.
Oh.
You have people who are like, I had one lady who came along who was like, I'm terrified of the water. I don't know why I'm here.
Okay.
I just knew I had to come along because of the vibe, because of that community. And that's why spaces like this, where women can get together, where we can talk, where we can share, where we can empower each other and be ourselves, is just such a helpful and necessary thing in our lives.
Yeah, it's
So
so cathartic as well.
yeah, it
Sounds
totally
really
is.
cathartic. And we know it's so hard to exercise and do
Yes.
that kind of outdoorsy stuff when you have endo because of the pain, because of all the
Yeah.
symptoms and the chronic fatigue. But, and I know personally, the amount of times I sit in my car and I'm literally like, come on, get out the car, go to the gym, go and do that class. Like, I know you don't want to. I know you feel like crap, but I know if I do this afterwards, I'm going to be like, oh my God, I feel amazing.
Yeah.
But it's not straightforward. So
No.
to be able to embrace that and envelop that and have that as like such a huge part of your life is amazing.
It is, and they were with me every step of the way in my diagnosis. So, you know, they really supported me through that. You know, because of that, I have gotten to the stage now where I've lived with this I was diagnosed January 2024. So I've lived with this now for you know, a couple of years now, which is crazy to say. I've become more confident and more self-assured in, you know, both in how it feels, but also in not staying silent.
Yeah.
And I think my confidence has grown in not staying silent. And, you know, that's what's led me to kind of take on this challenge, which is going to raise funds for Endometriosis UK and for the Wild Women's Outdoors Club. And basically, crazy old me, has signed up to do the 3 Peaks Challenge.
Amazing.
For somebody with chronic leg and hip pain, that's a choice.
That's what I thought was so incredible about the choice. I mean, there's a lot of different challenges you could have done. For someone that doesn't know anything about 3 Peaks Challenge, what is it?
So the 3 Peaks Challenge is climbing the highest mountain in England, the highest in Scotland, and the highest in Wales.
What are those 3 mountains? I should know that.
So
really.
no, it's all right. So it is Ben Nevis in Scotland.
Yeah.
It is Snowdon in Wales.
Yeah.
And it is Scafell Pike in England.
Okay.
There is a Welsh name for Snowdon. I'm so sorry. I've forgotten it. And I know it's best practice to say that name instead of Snowdon. That is the thing. But yeah, those are the three mountains.
Oh, wow.
On average, it should take about 5 hours to do Ben Nevis.
Okay.
It should take about sort of 4 to 4.5 for Scafell Pike and 4 for Snowdon.
Wow.
And this all needs to be done in a 24-hour period.
Oh my God.
Yep.
I've had friends from university. We had like a big group of guys that we were friends with, and their family, they're amazing. And they're all a little bit crazy. They love a challenge. And a few of them did the 3 Peaks.
Oh, nice.
But they did it like as lads do. They're like, shall we go through an organised provider? Shall we like plan it and be really organised? No, we'll just completely wing it and it'll be fine.
Oh, God.
But they were all like driving at all hours of the night, and they had to like share the driving. But you're being very sensible.
Yes.
And you're doing it with a group. You're doing it by yourself, but you're doing it with a group at the same time.
Yeah. Somebody else will be doing the driving. There'll be like mountaineering experts. Like I just need to show up and walk.
Yes.
Which is, you know, a big enough challenge for me for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And partly the reason why I did it is almost in like defiance of like these legs and hips. Like, I am taking control of this situation. You are not the boss of me. I am the boss of you. Yeah. And I know I have that strength within me. I know I've got that resilience. And I also know that these are 2 spaces that have helped me invaluably throughout that diagnosis process. And we won't get any further in any of this unless we talk, unless we fight, unless we advocate. Like, that's the way in which we make progress, because all of that will lead to you know, increased awareness. It will lead to increased research. We don't know what the future is, but we can try and fight for it.
Absolutely. I love that. And the fighting spirit that you have just comes across in leaps and bounds. And we're going to put all the details about your challenge in the description. So for whoever's listening, watching, please go have a look, donate if you can. Because it's like that, you know, if thousands of people could donate just £1.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's a massive difference, isn't it? So you don't have to donate enormous amounts of money if you're in a very tight situation, but we will definitely put all of that so people can access it.
That's so kind. Thank you. I truly believe in both of those spaces, particularly, you know, the Outdoors Club. You know, I think having local community spaces that can empower women again, be that online, be that in person, that's like gold dust. We need to protect those. Like, we need to cultivate them. We need to protect them. So no, I really appreciate that. And it goes a long way in empowering women like myself and like my friends, and like other women who we know are out there in our local community who could do with that kind of you know, experience and empowerment and confidence to be able to access that.
Definitely.
So, it's exciting.
Well, I'm wishing you all the best of luck with it. We'll be thinking of you. We'll be tracking all your progress. Absolutely. As we come to the end of the conversation, I have a podcast tradition for you.
Okay.
I would like you to imagine that I'm not sat here. I'm not in this seat.
Okay.
But the person who is here is a much younger version of Abbie.
Love that.
So whether she is year 7, year 8, or late teenage or 20s, you can pick the time. But I'd like you to imagine that she's here. And if you could say anything to her, what is it that you'd say?
Oh, that's such a great question. I'd probably say, hold your nerve. Hold your nerve, because you've got what it is within you. You've got the skill. You've got the bravery. You do have the confidence, but you don't know it. Just hold your nerve and don't assume that others are right, and don't follow their path.
Okay.
When I was a teenager, you know, I went to a very small school and I was one of the only people to not go into further education. I've always taken risks in my life. And in a lot of this journey, in sort of understanding and learning that I have endometriosis, I've had to take risks. I've had to step way out of my comfort zone. I've had to fight where I haven't always felt ready to fight. I've just been sort of thrust in there. You know, I've had to take that risk in terms of exploring those private options. There's always that question, that crossroads. And I think you put a post up the other day that was like, what's the thing that you've done? What's that risk that you've taken?
Yeah.
You know, and that resonates to me a lot, because life is full of crossroads and those risk points and things like that. And ultimately, you'll hear all this advice, you'll hear all this noise, you'll see how other people are doing it. And in a lot of ways, you have to sort of take that on, but shut it out and just think about myself. What do I need? What's going to make me happy? We can't always predict the cards that we get dealt in life, right? And, you know, for people like us, we haven't been dealt the easiest hands, but it's that saying of like, it's not the cards you've been dealt, it's how you play them. It's how you play your hand. Like, if that's the thing that we have in our control, how to play our hand, I'm going to play the best damn game that I can do with what I've got.
Amazing. That is, without a doubt, some of the best answers I've had to that
really?
in a long time. They're always great, but genuinely that was outstanding answer. I love that. So inspiring and so true. Abbie, you've been fantastic. Thank you for coming on. I love the conversation.
Yeah, same. Like, yeah, really appreciate being able to come here, and I've loved chatting with you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I loved our girl chat this week. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, then don't forget to hit the follow button wherever you're listening. To find out more about us or today's guest, then head to the show notes. Until next time, I'm Alexandra, and remember, it's not just a period.